and to touch briefly upon what that first poem was about. We can go back and I'll attach an image in the video of specifically what I was talking about with my annotated notes. We'll go back to starters with the title, Whispers of Scattered Wisdom. I don't really know what the word is, but I've created a double entendre with the title, and so I've broken it down synonymously. Whispers of Scattered Wisdom, which is the title, I've broken that down into with her escapes with home. So with her escapes with home, whispers of scattered wisdom. So it kind of sounds the same. I know it's a little bit weird, but I annotated that just to sort of preface the underlying sort of meaning and thematic undertones of the narrative. And with her escapes with home. So that whole entire idea of whispers of scattered wisdom kind of goes back to the idea of half of what I know is attributed to the person who had taught me and my upbringing and my role models, my family, my overall just inheritance, my lineage, my blood, right? And so that's kind of what I mean by with her. I'm kind of talking about my grandmother here, and this poem should explore a connection with like the sort of frameworking of what I am, and based on who I've known and considered my role models, like I've said. And this is more than just a sort of role model type of role. It's a mirror almost. A mirror that these people are holding up, which is important. It's not just a singular mirror. It's one that's being held up in a timely manner, right? And so I'm attributing half of what I am and the things that I know and what makes up who I am. I'm going to give half of that away to other people and the circumstances of the stimuli, I guess you could say, or I guess just the overall influences in my upbringing. And so I attribute half of that to my grandmother, which is half of this scattered wisdom, and the other half of it is within myself and is myself. And so this poem is basically an exploration of or maybe a meditation upon knowingly picking a road or a pathway forward when dealing with grief and the loss of a loved one, being aware of having to change, of seeking an answer, of reflecting on these wisdoms, of these teachings. And I think when you do this, you encounter some sort of sacred truth which kind of imbues their spirit into your own, which in a sense unifies the dualities of this sort of construct of life and death. You can eliminate the middleman by incorporating it into each other, and so when you live every day, you are also dying, and that's a interpretation of this duality and how you can sort of conquer it. You can awaken it, the truth. You can find the truth in these concepts. For instance, duality. You can find when you analyze it that when you give it nothing to oppose, what makes of it, what comes of it, what's left of that duality. When you take out the middle factor and unify the polarities. And you find that when you give evil nothing to oppose, it crumbles. and this is vastly relevant when it comes to uncovering truths, because you always want to be trying to, at the same time, you want to be degrading something within yourself. You want to be disposing or maybe speeding up the process from which these things are corrupting and purifying themselves. And corruption is also a construct of creation. There's a process of undoing in every beginning, and that the all suchness, or the all factor of life, quite literally begs us of that. To begin is to forget. And so when you encounter this I guess you could say a strategy, when you uncover this sort of game plan for, when I encounter new constructs and philosophies and ideas, I'm going to embark on learning it, but at the same time I'm going to think about how it's also not relevant, in order to better outline and distinguish what makes it relevant. And that's also easier for us as humans. In our nature, we naturally degrade things. Human psyche is torturous. And for instance, that is also the duality of beauty. Something that seems so complex by standard is actually most, in its most pure state, when it's simple. And so something so incomprehensibly encapsulating as something beautiful is, like a flower or a rainbow, when we conceptualize this, and when we encounter these sorts of beautiful constructs, we become a bit baffled and taken aback, and it gives us vast inquisitive fuel to sort of ponder on the nature of the beauty, right? And then when you do that so much, you begin to find that the most beautiful things are the most simplest of forms. And so the essence of beauty is naturally simple. And the essence of knowledge is naturally not inheritive. I can't think of the word. The essence of gathering knowledge is naturally productive. It's good for us. It's inheritive to our species. It's generative. That's what I should say. And by nature, in order to amplify that and to totalize that concept, we should be also thinking about how it's degradative. And so we're encapsulating the entirety of we're going full circle here. And so it's not just improving, we're also degrading. And then by doing so, we've accurately conceptualized the true concept of what's underlying, right? Because it's not all just, if everything was continuously going outwards without ever falling in or coming back, one, growth wouldn't exist. There'd be no need for it. Growth, by nature of duality and polarity, must also be contrived of corruption. And so the propelling nature of growth is a parallel of how it feasts upon itself or degrades itself by nature. And so now we've understand, or begun to understood, how to interpret our philosophies and give ourselves some groundwork for tackling these sorts of very complex constructs or ideas. And that is pretty much what the basis of this entire collection of poetry is about. And it's my interpretation of some you could consider manic lyrical prose, insomniac, insomniacal sort of writings that I feel like were conceived during a period of time where from the exertion of my psyche and from the testings of its boundaries and its limits by means of insomnia and I guess just thinning the threads of the dimensions that are layered top of the reality that I perceive, by thinning these boundaries through higher states of consciousness, which are achieved through fasting, prolonged states of prolonged periods without sleep, which is basically time spent away from our subconscious selves, which is necessary for our conscious selves, which is again another duality that is found in nature's constructs and in every construct. Something doesn't exist unless it can also not exist. And so I can't learn anything unless I unlearn some things, right? And I've done that, and I've embarked myself upon that process by exposing myself to these sorts of I guess you could say toxic states of consciousness, right? Mixing chemicals, amphetamines, cannabinoids, occasionally hallucinogens such as psilocybin, and whatever the fuck is in acid. And these sorts of truths have always come to me in these states of consciousness, in these at these frequencies, and I can only sometimes I can't tap into it in my sober mindset. I can't do it unless I'm diving into it. If it were the other way and I could access it at any given moment during a sober state of mind, I would literally go fucking crazy. And so I have to willingly put myself into it, and then when I'm out of it, I leave it alone. It's almost like putting on a mask. And once the mask is on,